I'm Matthew with Peoria Adventists. If you've been following us lately, you know we're in the midst of a series exploring the 10 Commandments as a path of wisdom. And we're now at the fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath. I think we Adventists might have something to say about that one. So the fourth commandment is the longest. Exodus 28 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart as holy. For 6 days you may labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you nor your son or your daughter or your male servant or your female servant or your cattle or the resident foreigner who is in your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Of all the commandments, the Sabbath is easily the most controversial, and not just among Christians. A surprising number of Jesus' conflicts in the Gospels with religious leaders was over the Sabbath. Not whether Sabbath should be kept or what day Sabbath was on, but how to keep Sabbath. One time, the religious leaders were upset that Jesus healed a man on Sabbath, and Jesus basically said, hey, any one of you would save a sheep on Sabbath. And then he added, how much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Which I think we could express mathematically as human over sheep. Adventists tend to want to discuss when Sabbath is. But the controversy in the Gospels wasn't over the timing of Sabbath, but its meaning, what we do with the Sabbath. And that's what I want to focus on in this video. Simply put, Sabbath is the Exodus experienced weekly. It is the Exodus as a holiday, as an institution. When Jesus said that people were more valuable than sheep, he meant that our priorities were upside down. Why else would the religious leaders complain about healing a man on Sabbath, but have no problem getting a sheep out of a ditch on Sabbath or an ox out of a ditch on Sabbath? There's this story in Luke chapter 10 where a woman named Martha complained that she had to slave away in the kitchen while her sister Mary was able to sit listening to Jesus. And the question left with the reader is, who's forcing Martha to slave away in the kitchen? So Martha goes up to Jesus and she says, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work alone? Tell her to help me. Now notice that Martha didn't say, Lord, free me from this work so I can come listen too. Rather, she wanted Jesus to force her sister into slaving away in the kitchen. And if we're honest, many of us understand Martha. I mean, come on, people need to eat. There's a bunch of people over at the house. Bread isn't going to bake itself. What seems natural to us is to be a good host. But in this story, what seems natural to us is really backwards. Because Jesus tells Martha, he says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things. But one thing is needed. Mary has chosen the best part, and it will not be taken away from her. What did Mary choose? Rest in the presence of God. And that's what Sabbath is all about. And Jesus says that rest will not be taken away from her. Now, the commandment tells us that we are supposed to work 6 days and rest on the seventh day, the Sabbath. Work is good. We need work. It's not a bad thing. But what God does here is he introduces the creation rhythm, which is work, 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 rest. This is the rhythm with which we're meant to live our lives. The problem is we just tend to work, 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 work nonstop. I mean, sure, you get a weekend, you get a day off here and there, but it's a day that we usually use to get some chores done, which is really just another kind of work. You hear that, Mom? So the Sabbath Exodus does several things for us. First, it breaks our addiction to doing, enables us to focus on being. It's a day to stop slaving to your to-do list, to stop trying to impress people. Sabbath is a day to rest in Jesus and be reminded that you are loved and accepted and created and chosen and in desperate need of repair. Sabbath begs us to stop turning busyness into a status symbol. Sabbath forces us to quit, to just say, I know the bedroom is only half painted and the house is a mess, but I'm going to take these kids, throw them in the trunk, and we're going to the park as a family. Legal disclaimer. Peoria Adventist does not in any way encourage you or promote putting your children in the trunk. Sabbath is absolutely not another thing to do. It's learning how to stop doing and letting your soul rest. Sabbath is meant to keep us focused on what matters most in life. It's a day for being. Now, the second thing that Sabbath does for us is Sabbath reminds us that rest is sacred. In Exodus chapter 5, Moses and Aaron ask Pharaoh to let them have a rest to go worship God. Pharaoh says, "Moses and Aaron, why do you cause the people to rest from their work? Return to your labor." For Pharaoh was thinking, "The people of the land are now many, and you are giving them rest from their labor." In Pharaoh's worldview, work gives life meaning. He suspects that Moses and Aaron aren't really serious about worshiping God. They're just lazy. They just want some days off work. And the gates of Dachau and Auschwitz is a phrase Pharaoh would have been proud of. Arbeit macht frei, or work sets you free. Some people say time is money. Sabbath says time is a divine gift. It cannot be commoditized. It cannot be reduced to monetary value. Now, this Pharaoh mindset in this world will never let you rest. Pharaoh wants you to work because Pharaoh fears what happens if you rest. Don't get me wrong, Pharaoh's work is impressive. Pharaoh used the Hebrews to build these huge cities. He used others to build the pyramids, maybe aliens.
All these ancient structures are calling cards left by extraterrestrials.
But Pharaoh's work destroys the soul. Pharaoh's rhythm is work, 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 which isn't really a rhythm much at all. But God's creation rhythm is work, 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 rest. In Pharaoh's song, your entire purpose is your work. In God's song, work is important, but it's not everything. That Sabbath rest at the end of the week is what matters. Escape from the Pharaoh in your life, or maybe you are that Pharaoh, making yourself, driving yourself to achieve more and more and more. But either way, Sabbath propels us. It drives us toward Exodus to escape from the Pharaohs in this world. And that leads us to the final thing which Sabbath does for us. Sabbath reminds us of a new social order. Sabbath reminds us that this life isn't all the life that there is. It's a foretaste of the final rest we will have in a new heavens and a new earth. Sabbath imagines a world where you don't have to produce in order to survive. The Sabbath commandment tells us to extend this rest to those under our authority, like our kids and animals and servants. It's not fair for you to rest while your kids have to work or your animals have to work. None of that. None of that. Sabbath is a gift we are called to pass on to others. All of the commandments were given as an antidote to the Egypt syndrome. But the Sabbath does more than all the rest. The Sabbath is good news for people tired of being slaves. It's bad news if you're a workaholic. Most of us don't live under taskmasters today, right? We're not in physical bondage. But God is concerned that we have become our own pharaohs, our own taskmasters, and our own slaves. That we go through life without balance, without rhythm. So he designed a day, the only day he said to remember. He designed a day to refocus and reconnect us with him and with those we love. A day where we get a glimpse of the kind of world he has in store for us. A day we can see that the best is yet to come.
You and I, we were meant to be. I feel it in my soul. Feel it in my soul.